Hello, I'm Scott Wrighton. I'm the Decatur City Manager, and once again, it's my chance to give you a little bit of update of what's going on with the city. At the last City Council meeting on November 1st, the City Council had considerable discussion about the next step in our stewardship of Lake Decatur. One of Decatur's greatest assets, certainly one of its prettiest assets, but it's a man-made lake. It's simply an impoundment of the Sangamon River, and as a result, man-made lakes oftentimes silt up, and they require a lot more maintenance than natural lakes. And the City Council is absolutely bound and determined that in the second century of Lake Decatur that they be much better stewards of the watershed than perhaps they were during the first century of the existence of Lake Decatur. Why that's important is that we want to avoid another $95 million project to dredge out the lake, which was completed just a few years ago. That project was the result of almost a century of silt buildup in the lake that made it very difficult to get a reliable water supply. By taking all of that silt out, we made a substantial increase in the capacity of drinking water. In fact, we were even able to draw it out at a lower elevation than we'd ever been able to do in the past. But doing that kind of silt reduction requires a lot of interaction over a long period of time with farmers and with others up in the watershed, a watershed that's nearly 900 square miles and is involved with 7 different counties in east central Illinois. So we have a consultant partner with this who will guide us through this, help us with those interactions, help us with funding, help us with new ordinances, with developing buffers and all the other things that over a long period of time will help us improve the lake and its water quality and make significant reductions in that silt. So you'll be reading more about this. It's a very long-term and frankly expensive endeavor, but for the proper maintenance and the future of Lake Decatur, I believe the Mayor and City Council believe that it's worth doing. One of the other items that was on the City Council's agenda last Monday was an item that you see more and more frequently on the Mayor and City Council's agenda, and that is the authorization to tear down additional homes that have become derelict or burnt out or have been abandoned or foreclosed in some other way. They are no longer rehabable, and so they need to be torn down, or the authorization for bids that we've let in order to do that kind of work. The Mayor and Council have set an amount of money that is substantially higher than it has been in the past, and so because they've made those additional resources available, it means there's going to be a whole lot more demolitions, condemnations, and elimination and clearing of some of these derelict houses than you may have seen for several years. One of the other key priorities of the City Council, besides neighborhood revitalization, is workforce development. Now, this is a city priority because workforce development is economic development. If we don't have the available labor force for our existing employers to draw from for employees, much less prospective employers who might come to Decatur, then it's going to be difficult to create new jobs and to attract new businesses and new investment to our community. So at the last City Council meeting, the Mayor and Council funded a study of the workforce ecosystem here in Decatur and Macon County. Now, Richland Community College, Workforce Solutions, and many of the other organizations that are involved in training and preparing our workforce are doing great work. Just today, it was announced that Workforce Solutions received an additional $250,000 from the state for an innovative training program that they're doing with the Trades and Labor Council. But our unemployment rate is still higher than it needs to be, and at the same time, there's 1,700 jobs going unfilled in the Decatur-Macon County area. Now, some of those jobs are lower paying jobs, but some of them are also good paying jobs with benefits. So all of the different players involved in this workforce development project are trying to come together and reduce the economic, the social, as well as the training and other impediments and barriers that stand in the way of connecting people who need jobs with the people who have the positions to fill the jobs. And that's what we're going to try to get a better handle on with this consulting contract and bringing some experts in so that we can create an innovative structure for solving that problem here in Decatur and Macon County. Yesterday was election day in parts of the country. It was not election day here in Illinois, but it was in several other states. there were several referenda on the ballots in places like Minneapolis and Seattle and many smaller jurisdictions as well, where essentially the question of support of modern law enforcement was on the ballot. In almost every single jurisdiction where law enforcement policy and organizational structure was before the voters expressed lopsided support for the rule of law, for community policing, and for continued support of law enforcement. Now, how does that affect us here in Decatur and in Illinois, where it wasn't even on the ballot? Well, it's relevant because the mayor and council have really from the beginning of some of this public discussion about the role of law enforcement have taken the position that they support law enforcement, that they support the rule of law, and they have taken the necessary steps to give the police the tools and the equipment that they need to do their jobs, to modernize their departments, to increase professionalism, and provide the kind of protection that our citizens deserve. The reason I wanted to mention that wasn't just because of what happened in elections yesterday, but also because sometimes law enforcement or dealing with certain types of troubled areas doesn't always fall strictly to the police department. Although it's not widespread here in Decatur, we have seen an increase in the incidence of situations in residential neighborhoods where essentially businesses are going on, illegal businesses are going on, violating the terms of the zoning, creating neighborhood disturbances of the peace, sometimes illegal activities. And so I wanted to mention that, without mentioning where some of those are, that because they are not only law enforcement issues, they're also zoning issues, that our community development department may be able to intervene as well and start dealing with property owners who are violating the integrity, the livability of some of the neighborhoods simply by activities that they take on in single-family residences. And so we have been dealing with that on a code enforcement basis. We expect to do so even more in conjunction with the police. And so if you have incidents like that, you can feel free to bring them to the attention of the city manager's office or the police department or the community development department. Because we really do like hearing from you. We get a lot of feedback, and feedback is good even when it's negative. And giving feedback about what we're doing is part of what these videos are about. So thank you for giving me the opportunity and tuning in. And I look forward to giving you an update again next week.